Hello there. Welcome back and welcome to part 25 of my build log of the Trumpeter 1 to 200 scale model of the Titanic. Today is the 109th anniversary of Titanic's setting sail for New York. She left Southampton today 109 years ago. So I thought I'd upload a video to mark the occasion. Today's video is going to concern the interiors on B deck, so the second class smoking room and the A la Carte Restaurant, and a couple of hallways and things that go along with it. So without any further ado, I will crack on. So the first room I started with was the second class smoking room, right at the aft of B deck. And this is quite an ornate room. From the research I've done, it seems like the walls were oak panelled and the chairs were done in a deep green leather. As this photo shows here, the first thing that I've done is I cut out all the furniture that I wanted to use. And I've arranged it into various different patterns and stuff, just to try to see, what I think works in the room and what I think doesn't work so well. So here are the chairs and sofas for the second class smoking room on B deck. And these are really difficult to airbrush because they're so small that they tend to just get blown away by the air current coming from the airbrush. So what I tend to do is I tend to put piece of sellotape upside down. In this case it's masking tape, and that just allows me to stick the feet of the chairs onto them. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes the chairs do still get lifted off and they get blown away and I have to go and pick them up. But this is much better than nothing, and it does make the process quite a lot simpler. So as I said before, I'm going to paint my chairs green, and I've actually settled on the same colour that I used for the winches on the forecastle deck. So this is a Tamiya product. It's called NATO Green and its number is XF67. The next thing to do was to get the tiling down in the room. The second class smoking room had quite a distinctive green patterned tile, and that's what I'm adding in here. This is actually not the exact tiling that was used in the smoking room. This is a green pattern that was used elsewhere on Titanic. But it's not the exact same tiles that would have been used in the smoking room. I've decided not to be too concerned about that though, because in this scale it is quite genuinely impossible to tell the difference. You can tell the difference if you take an incredibly close-up photo, but otherwise you can't. And it's worth remembering that these rooms are only going to be viewed through the windows inside of the ship, so the sort of detail and the good quality views that we're getting at the moment will be virtually non-existent when the ship is actually ready. So I stuck the tiling down with Gorilla Glue, and I have since stuck the furniture down on top with CA. It's worth saying as well that I have sprayed the tiles with a matte enamel varnish just to protect it against any moisture. So I've just finished working on the second class smoking room. They're all now glued in place. And I thought I'd show you the setup I use when I am doing interiors for ships. So on one screen, I've got Encyclopedia Titanica open. And this is really good because it gives you a really large blown up image of, in this case, B deck. And it's great because as you can see, you can look at the second class smoking room and you can see, okay, so there's, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tables. You can work out how much furniture the room was meant to carry. And so this gives you a nice rough idea how much furniture that you need to prepare to paint before actually fitting and gluing. So that's really useful. It also gives you a nice idea of the layout. Probably not a definitive layout, because I'm sure tables and chairs will have been moved around, or perhaps on Titanic maybe not so much. But it'll give you a rough idea of tables and chairs positions and that sort of thing. And then on this screen I have a photo of my dry test. So this is a test fit that I did, having cut out the furniture that I wanted and just placed it roughly in the room to see what I liked, to see what I thought worked, what I think didn't work. I quite like having a sofa, a large table and 3 chairs. I've decided not to put the circular table and 2 chairs in the alcoves and so on. But it's nice to be able to sort of experiment and move stuff around and see what works. Now, one thing I do want to address, I am well aware that in reality these were toilets, well aware of that, but I'm not going to add anything in for the toilets because I thought long and hard about it, and I thought the problem is there's just no point. I sort of put the sides in place, and it is practically impossible to see these areas of the room anyway. And my other consideration was I just thought that lighting is going to be so tricky to get into that area that I just didn't see any virtue in doing it. And for the benefit it would give, I just didn't think it was worthwhile. So I haven't done it. But I just want to sort of preempt anyone saying, are you aware of those lavatories? Yeah, I did know, I just didn't put them in. So here is the second class smoking room. A couple of things left to go. I need to put some people in here. Because I'm setting my model as a sort of 3 o'clock, 3:30, maybe 4 in the afternoon kind of model, I don't think many passengers will be in here. So I'm probably not going to put many passengers, but I might put a few stewards, you know, maybe sweeping up, cleaning the tables, getting ready for an evening of brandy and cigars and that kind of thing, you know. And then, of course, I need to actually put the walls around the sides as well. So, as you can see, because I'm adding interiors in visible places, I'm also going to have to add some interior walls because, for example, you know, there should be a wall here between the second class smoking room and staircase. And there should be another wall here between the staircase and the A la Carte Restaurant. There should be another one there, and then a hallway into into the B deck grand staircase. So there's a few individual walls. So what I'm doing is I've got myself some 2mm thick polystyrene, exactly the same material that's used in the kit, and I'm just making myself some walls to go in. I'm not really going to bother with things like doorways in here, but I am going to do the walls just because that would it would sort of shatter the effect a bit. I think if you could see the A la Carte restaurant through from the second class smoking room, that wouldn't really make any sense. So same principle as with the rest of the model really. I'm going to cut these out and I'm going to glue the paper backings onto them and stick them down. The other thing that I'm doing on these internal walls is I'm cutting their height down a little bit, and this is deliberate, and the reason for this is because lighting is going to have to go over the top of them, and it's going to be really tricky to thread light through holes and stuff, particularly if I want the superstructure to become detachable and stuff. So what I'm going to do instead is have the walls slightly lower, not really low enough that you're going to notice them from the outside. You know, by the time you've got windows in this area, you're not really going to notice that wall is lower, but it'll allow LED strips for the lighting to run over the top of them, which hugely simplifies the lighting process. The next job was to add the pillars or columns inside the smoking room. In this clip, I am cutting out the furniture for the A la Carte Restaurant. So all of my stuff for the a la carte is in here. Quick slosh of isopropyl alcohol. That will remove any of the UV resin. I should explain, these parts are made from UV resin. But some of it doesn't set, just sort of stuff on the surface. You can sometimes find the parts are a wee bit sticky. So you can remove that just by swilling them around in isopropyl alcohol. That'll take it off and then they'll be ready for painting. In this clip I'm just cleaning up the furniture, getting rid of any high points or little bits of support material that I didn't take off first time round, doing a little bit of sanding, just making sure that they're absolutely ready to be painted. As you can see, there is masses of furniture for the a la carte restaurant. The contents I've been given for this are 139 chairs, 38 squared tables, 17 circular tables, and 1 large buffet table. I would be astounded if I'm able to fit all of this stuff into the space I've got for the a la carte restaurant, but I'll cut it all out, paint it, and then at least I've got the option of doing whatever I want. I don't have to use all the furniture if I don't want to. So the a la carte restaurant was really luxuriously decorated. It was done in sort of Louis XVI style. So you have a lot of things like brass gild around and walnut wooden panellings. The chairs were walnut. You had these gorgeous rich carpets. It was a properly exquisite room on the ship. The colours that I've tried to do in this are tried to make the chairs relatively deep brown to show off the walnut that they would have been made from. So here's a very close-up of the chairs for the a la carte restaurant. I'm just about to do a bit of detail painting on them. The reason for that is the a la carte chairs weren't just solid wood. I think they were made of walnut originally, but they were upholstered with quite a pleasant sort of detailed fabric, which had sort of flowers and things on, but when you zoom out it appears cream colour. So I'm going to paint some highlights on these chairs in cream. Now I'm not going to do too much because there's a lot of chairs to get through, and so committing to doing a lot of detail would, I suspect, pretty much commit me to spending the rest of my life building this model, which I'm not entirely sold on doing. But I'm going to do a bit because I think if I don't, the room as it stands is going to end up being very dark. You know, you've got dark oak on the walls, you've got sort of walnut coloured chairs, you've got dark tables, so the room's going to appear very dark without any real relief unless I do something about that. And as this is one of the more visible rooms, I think it's worth doing a little bit of detail picking out on the chairs. Like I say, I'm not doing much. I'm just doing the base of the chair where you plonk yourself, and then picking out the sides as well. And this is the same cream that I used in the Café Parisien. It's Humbrol 103. And there you are, nothing major, but just a little bit more detail picked out, and that should give the room just a little bit more interest. Make it a little bit more realistic, perhaps. I mean, in reality, these aren't quite the right shaped chairs for the room, and that's not a criticism, by the way. I don't think it's possible to print the right shaped chairs for the A la Carte Restaurant, because they would end up being so fragile, so spindly, that I just don't think it would be possible. So these are more like tub chairs. They're more like smoking room kind of chairs, you know. But with a bit of painting in the right place, they end up looking pretty decent, I think. So there we are. 2 done, and about 137 to go. So, I thought to take a bit of a break from painting the endless chairs in the A la Carte Restaurant, and instead I'm going to have a look at the buffet table. Now, the buffet table, from what I've been able to read, was covered with a sort of work surface of sort of peachy coloured marble, which is a tricky thing to paint at the best of times, to be honest. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to build up that colour slowly over a few layers. So I'm going to start off with the same flesh that I've used on people. So this is Humbrol 61. And I'm use quite a wide brush and just start with the really thin layer and then build up from there. Lovely. So that's a good start. And then I'll add more layers. I'll add some whites in there as well. Might even add a couple of sort of veins of darker colour as well. You know, marble tends to be quite a diverse selection of colours rather than a flat one. So we'll build that up slowly. So in this clip I'm just dabbing on additional colours onto the marble worktop. I'm trying to give the impression that there are multiple colours almost overlaying over the top, because if you look at marble, quite often there's a slight sort of translucency to the top of the stone. So that's the sort of effect I'm trying to get. So I'm fitting the a la carte carpet here. As before, this is a printout of a pattern which, impossible to say for certain, but I think is quite reminiscent, if not the correct pattern used on the actual a la carte restaurant on Titanic. As before, I have sprayed this with a matte enamel varnish to protect it in advance, and I'm going to stick it down with Gorilla Glue. Now, the actual process of fitting this carpet, it's funny actually, it's not at all dissimilar from the process of fitting a real carpet. You know, you measure up and you make sort of marker cuts and work the material, or in this case the paper, into the corners, and you know, work slowly, make more cuts, get certain areas lined up, and so on and so on and so on. It's remarkably similar to actually fitting a genuine carpet, and the key here is just slow and steady, slow and steady. There's quite a lot of tricky, well actually I say that, there's not that many tricky areas in the a la carte. The only hard bit is the sort of bay window that looks out into the Café Parisien. That's the only bit that's a huge challenge. But nonetheless, it pays to take your time and work slowly with this. As you can see, there's a few ripples on the a la carte carpet. I'm not too concerned about those because, as you see, as I put furniture down, they become absolutely invisible. So first thing I'm doing here, as before, is I'm just placing bits of furniture in, seeing what works, seeing what I can realistically fit into the space. So in this clip, I'm not doing any gluing at all. And in this clip I actually am gluing. The way I tend to glue things is I put a big splodge of glue onto a scrap piece of plastic, and then I dip the furniture into that splodge of glue before gluing down. And that just seems to be a good way of doing things. Make sure that there's a decent amount of glue on each of the legs of the chairs or tables before you actually stick them in place. Now, as I said before, my model is set between sort of 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so at this point the restaurant isn't actually, it's not open. What I'm trying to convey is that the restaurant's being sort of prepared for the evening service. So you can see some of the tables have got tablecloths on, some of them haven't. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some restaurant staff in the restaurant to make it look like they're getting ready for the evening service. And so there we are. That's the second class smoking room done now, except for lighting. Got this chappie leaning against the pillar, not quite pulling his weight, and his mates around him getting the room ready for the evening. So as you can see, I've added the hallways. It's tricky to see, but I'll see if I can get the image through. You can just see them through the windows in the Café Parisien. And you'll notice that I've actually extended the hallway long enough that there is no eye line to anything further down into B deck. The reason for that is because I'm not doing the grand staircase on B deck here or here. In fact, I'm not doing the grand staircase on B deck full stop, because I just don't think they're visible enough. You know, even if this corridor wasn't in place, you would still really only be able to see through those portholes and maybe that first window. So I just don't think it's worthwhile. But anyway, I think they look really nice, and I like the sort of slightly lighter area of the ship. This area feels quite sort of fresh and light. You know, you've got nice white tiles and a white painted wall, a sort of nice airy cafe, and then you've got the really heavy sort of Louis XVI style area inside the a la carte. Also, here is the buffet table. You can see the sort of marble effect I've tried to create. Reasonably happy with it. I think it probably could be a wee bit better, but it's the first sort of time I've tried anything like that, so I'm pretty happy with it for a first time. And again, using a little bit of sort of common sense, the fact that it's practically impossible to see means I don't see any virtue spending 3 hours on it when you all but can't see it, you know. So here's the a la carte, and what I've tried to do is I've tried to put staff in a slightly different uniform to the staff in other areas of the ship. You can see that I've made the White Star stewards into a slightly more sort of cream coloured uniform, whereas the a la carte staff are in white. And now I think in reality both probably wore white, but I want to do a little bit more obvious separation because staff in the a la carte were not actually White Star Line employees. The entire restaurant was actually run as a concession. So these staff members were not passengers, but equally they weren't crew either. Also, I've tried to sort of arrange them as if they're just setting the restaurant up for the evening. So, you know, maybe these two chaps have just put the tablecloth on the table. These two just chatting by the bar about the evening service, maybe how they can sharpen up a few things from last night. And then a bloke just wandering around, wondering how busy it's going to be later on. But overall, I'm really, really happy with how this has turned out. I think it looks like a really nicely balanced room. You know, the carpet really works with the colours of the wood. I really like the wooden pillars. The bar adds the buffet table, I suppose, adds a really nice touch as well. So I'm really happy with how this has turned out. Now somebody, and I can't remember whether it was on here or on Instagram, but somebody suggested that I put Bruce Ismay in his deluxe suite on B deck. So that is what I've done. I thought it was a really good idea. So, I don't know if I better get it in focus, but there he is. Hello, Bruce. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly have really enjoyed this part of the build. It's so satisfying. Next video will probably be a fair while because there's quite a lot of stuff I need to do to generate enough content to actually put into a video. But thank you very much for watching. If you do have any questions or comments, please do whack them down below. And I do really mean that. You know, in this video I've shown, you know, I really do like reading the comments, and be it sort of constructive criticism or just suggestions on how you think the model could be made a bit more unique or a bit more accurate or interesting. You know, I really do quite enjoy reading the comments, so please do pop something down if you fancy it. Equally, if you've enjoyed it, like and subscribe, usual YouTube stuff. And I will see you in the next one. Next video is going to be on the lighting of B deck. I'm also going to cover stuff like how I'm going to disguise the fact that I'm not doing the interior on the rest of the deck. So that'll come up in the next episode. As I say, probably a fair while until that comes out, but hopefully it won't be too long, but we'll see. Anyway, until then, keep yourself safe, keep yourself well. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.